And welcome to another week of Upon Further Review. I'm Josh Aubrey. We'll be joined by Frank Sulkowski from WJCL Television in Savannah. In just a little bit, we're going to be discussing the Georgia Southern Eagles coming off the loss to Indiana, starting the season 0-3 on the year and looking to rebound as they have this Saturday off. And then they have Arkansas State as they open up Sun Belt play this next Wednesday. We'll hear from Frank and get his take on that. And we'll also take a look at the upcoming area high school football matchups. You've got Statesboro High on the road at Tattnall County. Southeast Bullock travels to Islands in search of their first win of the season. Bullock Academy back home against Edmund Burke. And we also have the Portal Panthers hosting Savannah Country Day. We'll hear from Frank in just a moment, but before that, we'd like to remind you, for any legal advice you may have in the Statesboro Bullock County area, talk to our friend Lovett Bennett Jr., attorney at Law PC. Lovett's office located in downtown Statesboro. And joining me once again, the big guy from WJCL Television in Savannah, Frank Sulkowski. And Frank, it's a strange week as Georgia Southern, with not a bye week, but they're kind of resting up for the Wednesday game. They get this Saturday, they get the next Saturday. I know it's got to be a little frustrating for the fans, especially since they missed out on the game that was supposed to be their home opener with New Hampshire. That game moved to Birmingham. It wasn't Georgia Southern's fault. But, you know, it's kind of tough. You gear up for Saturdays, whether you're a fan, whether you're a player, and now you're gearing up and there's nothing for a little while. Do you think that helps or hurts the Eagles?
Well, I definitely think it helps, especially when there's been some struggles going on. If you're playing really well, it can be hurtful. That's how I look at it, because if you're doing some things right and you want that snowball to continue to roll down the hill, for Georgia Southern, I think extra days at practice to work on some things, get some new wrinkles, it can only help at this point. Let's be honest. Again, 0-3 start, first time since 1994 you've started out winless and 0-3. So I think more time the better to get the reps into practice and get ready, and hopefully this extra time will help get Georgia Southern ready, because at this point the out-of-conference stuff, it's over. It's time now. I mean, you're into conference play. Each win very important. Not just to hopefully make a run and get the 6 wins, but to be in the mix there in the conference as a whole. Again, it has been a weird couple weeks for this. It's been a weird season, let's be honest. No home games, and actually, when all is said and done, Georgia Southern will be the last home team in the FBS, or the last team in the FBS to play a home game. That's what's going to happen. Georgia Southern will be the last FBS team to play a home game here in 2017. Hard to believe. It has been a long season already, and we're only 3 games in.
Speaking of long seasons, with the extra time on their hands, the social media, of course, has been going on for quite a while, especially when things continue to look like they struggle and the Eagles look like they take a little step forward, and then they have 2 things that they step back. They go forward in this category and go backwards in 2 others. It's got to be tough for the players and the coaches to put it all out of their heads, and it's got to be there. And I know it's hard because you and I see it all the time, and even whether we're looking for it or not, whether you got people saying you're being too easy on them, you got people saying you're being too hard on them. You know, in this day and age, how impactful is social media to a football team or to a program?
Oh, it's very impactful. One, anybody who has access to a computer, a laptop, a phone, can go on there, can spew off whatever they want, positive or negative. And you know, everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody has access to message boards, to Twitter, to the social media sites. And so you see it everywhere. Even if you're not looking for it, it's going to find you. And that's just the thing about it. That way, it can be negative, and which a lot of the things we're seeing today and since the season started has been negative. Maybe the players and coaches can turn that into a positive, and you finally get tired of reading all this stuff. And again, I don't know if everybody's reading them. I don't know who reads them. I try not to read them as myself, because you start getting frustrated, and everybody's opinion's different, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. But with that said, sometimes you can use that as a motivation piece. I just hope that's what we see out of Georgia Southern in the coming weeks, that we start, you take that frustration or whatever it may be and let that fuel your fire, because Georgia Southern definitely needs a fire 0-3 going into conference play. So you hope maybe that ignites things, and it all starts with Arkansas State on a Wednesday night on national television.
Well, Frank, the opponent coming up, Arkansas State, not till next Wednesday. We know a little bit about them. They're one of the big dogs that came into the league. We've heard about Lafayette, Arkansas State, and Troy. And then, of course, Georgia Southern and App come in and kind of bully their way around. But Arkansas State's been a team that's known success. They've had successful coaches come in and out. And they're also a team that Georgia Southern's kind of using for this season and how things have started. They're trying to allude to, look what Arkansas State did.
Let's be honest, and remember this. Arkansas State started the 2016 season 0-4. They went on to make a run, finish at the top of the conference standings and go to a bowl game. They started 0-4. They lost to an FCS opponent. It sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? And again, their run in the Sun Belt and their righting the ship there came with that win against Georgia Southern. So again, the Eagles need to look no further than Arkansas State to say, hey, this is the roadmap we need to take, and it starts next Wednesday night there against Arkansas State at Paulson Stadium.
All right. Well, Frank, we appreciate you getting the Georgia Southern aspect of things, and in just a moment we'll come back and hear from Frank again as we preview the upcoming area high school football matchups.
Lee Hill and Johnston Insurers. We've been Statesboro's insurance people since 1963. That's a lot of memories. Recognized as one of the leading agencies in Georgia, Lee Hill and Johnston is independent and offers a complete line of personal and business insurance for auto, life, home, and health. We'll shop companies to find the lowest premiums and best coverage for you, your family, or your business. Lee Hill and Johnston Insurers, the insurance people since 1963.
To stay ahead, a parent has to really be on the go. And stop for school, stop for sports, stop for an intervention. But you don't have to stop for banking. To stay ahead with mobile online banking, bank ahead with Queensboro National Bank and Trust.
See Jeremy Reagan and the staff at Queensboro National Bank and Trust, South Main Street in Statesboro.
Join me once again, Frank Sulkowski, the big guy from WJCL Television in Savannah. Frank's going to be back on the Frenzy this Friday. Frank, among the games you're going to be covering, we got Statesboro High at Tattnall County. Southeast Bullock will be traveling 2 islands down your way. We've got Bullock Academy playing host to Edmund Burke, and the Portal Panthers hosting Savannah Country Day. Let's start things off with Statesboro. You got Jeff Kaiser going back home to take on Tattnall County. I guess not back home, but back to the place he came to Statesboro from. Tattnall seems to be doing okay this year. Your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, again, I think Statesboro, with that win against Appling County, they're starting to believe that they can win. They know they can win. Hopefully now they can utilize that to beat a very athletic Tattnall team. Tattnall no slouch. However, last time out they did get roughed up a little bit by Bradwell, who, surprise, surprise, Bradwell undefeated on the season. Very good rushing attack there under a new head coach. So again, it's going to be interesting to see how Statesboro comes off a win. This is something they haven't done in a little while, coming off a win going into a game. But I'm sure practice this week a little bit more festive, a little more exciting, a little bit more smiles, and a little bit more laid back. But this is where you build off of it now, and a win against Appling and Tattnall, 2 teams from lower classifications in back-to-back weeks, would be definitely a huge step in the right direction as Statesboro looks to get back to their winning ways here in 2017. So a tough matchup, but a definite winnable matchup for the Blue Devils.
All right, moving ahead to Brooklet, we got Southeast Bullock. I guess not in Brooklet, but they're going on the road to Islands. Islands has won a couple of games this year. Your thoughts on the Southeast Bullock Islands matchup as Southeast is still looking for their first win of the season?
Well, I tell you what, this could very easily be Southeast Bullock's first win. Islands is in that middle of the pack in the region race, maybe towards the tail end. Let's remember Islands, one of the newer high schools here in Chatham County, one of the newer schools in Savannah. So they're still dealing with a little bit of growing pains as far as getting the numbers up and getting things into a strong foundation. I think defensively this year they've taken a step back from where they were maybe a year ago. Offensively, they do have some speedy guys that can give you trouble. But from what I've seen from Southeast Bullock, this can prove to be a really good matchup for the Jackets. I think they pick up the first win of the season there as they come to Savannah for this matchup. Just a good matchup-wise. What Southeast Bullock does well is something that Islands has trouble with. I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. Well, meanwhile, the only teams home, Bullock Academy and Portal. Bullock Academy hosting Edmund Burke. And we mentioned Jeff Kaiser going back to where he coached. Of course, we've got Terrence Hennessy, who came from Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke's pretty good on the season, looking like it could be a good matchup for Bullock Academy.
This would be a huge win for BA because, like you said, Edmund Burke, year in and year out, a very competitive squad. And over the years, BA and Edmund Burke have played some really competitive games, and I expect this one to be no different. You talked about, you got the history there with the coaches. Edmund Burke has played a pretty tough schedule here in 2017 and done pretty well. But again, I think BA, from what I saw, you're watching different areas of them step up here as we get into the middle part of the season, where I think BA is putting things together, and they could be onto something special. If you get all the areas that we've seen step up in recent games, you put all those together for one game, and it could be a very big win for BA. Maybe it comes this week.
All right, and wrapping things up, the Portal Panthers hosting Savannah Country Day. Country Day, among their wins was Johnson & Johnson. You got Johnson High School from Savannah they beat, and they also beat Johnson County.
Tell you what, Country A is one of those teams that the things they do well. They're very fundamentally sound. They're not going to make too many mistakes, and that has them in a lot of games. Again, their numbers, they're not huge as far as depth goes in a lot of numbers, so that's one area of concern. But their offense, they do have some weapons there in the backfield, and especially their big tight end is a very good guy, and he's a junior and one of those guys who's made one of the All-USA teams and all that good stuff. So he's a dangerous weapon. Country Day, not a good matchup for Portal. Let's be honest. I mean, Portal, they can outrun you, out-athletic you, but I tell you what, Country Day is very good at everything they do. So this one could be a tough one for Portal, coming off that win against Wheeler County. Country Day isn't Wheeler County. They're going to put up a much bigger fight. If Portal could pick up the win here, it would be a very, very quality win against Country Day, which, is in the top half to the middle of the pack in the region race.
All right, well, Frank Sulkowski joining us. Thanks once again, Frank, and everybody. Tune in to Frank's show. We got the Frenzy, and it comes up about 10 after, 12 after 11. Turn it on at 11, as Frank says, and just wait for the sports. Plenty of highlights coming up here Friday night. Frank, thanks for joining us. And coming up next, we'll hear from our area coaches. Family Internal Medicine Associates of Statesboro, providing primary care for Statesboro area patients since 1998. Providing complete physicals, complete sports physicals, Medicare wellness exams, full diabetes treatment, and education from lifestyle changes to oral medications to insulin pump therapy. In-house dermatology, in-house circulation tests and ultrasounds, in-house lab. And introducing our new nurse practitioner, Melissa Beasley, as we now accommodate same-day or next-day appointments to serve your needs. Family Internal Medicine Associates of Statesboro, where we care.
No credit refused isn't just an offer, it's a way of business and has been for over 100 years. No banks, no ridiculous credit requirements, just local Badcock store owners who treat you right and give you credit when others won't. It's never been easier to express your style and love your home.
Points at the start of the fourth quarter. It's definitely the biggest come from behind win I've had in my coaching career. But it's a great character builder for our kids to show that we can come back, and if we ever get down like that again, we can always point to that game and say, listen, we've done it before, we can do it again.
How do you feel like where you guys are? Is this about where you thought you'd be?
I was really hoping the offense would be clicking a little bit better, and that we wouldn't be giving up quite as many big plays on defense. But I'm for the most part happy with where we are. We're 4-2, getting ready to play the region schedule, which are the 4 games that really matter for us. And if we can just get a little things happening for us, I think we're going to be okay.
You're playing a team that you used to coach. It's been a few years. Is it as big a deal now as maybe it was the first year or two?
I don't think so. All the kids I coached are gone. I know some of their players because they're the brothers of kids I coached, or I knew their parents. But no, I don't think that's a big deal. I think it's the fact that our kids and their kids know each other so well and are really lots of friends with each other and talk to each other on social media. I think that's what makes it kind of a rivalry type game, on top of being just the first region game.
As for the X's and O's, what do you expect from them on the field?
They are big and strong. They're going to run the wing tee and the wishbone, and they run it very well. An option, they have a freshman quarterback who doesn't play like a freshman. And then on defense, they're going to be in a 4-4 and a 5-2, and they're going to play man coverage and bring a lot of pressure.
It was a good experience. Kids were excited, fired up. The fans and community were fired up and excited. It was just it was a good evening, good night to be a Blue Devil.
We've talked about the losing mentality, to have gotten that win, even when Appling did come back and score a touchdown to cut it to 7. That's got to be mentally, though, pretty big for these guys.
Yeah, just lets the kids know that, even though we hadn't caught any breaks up until that point this year, as long as you keep playing hard and keep striving to do it right, that eventually you'll dig out of that hole. Now, that being said, we've got to carry over to this week. That's what we're looking for. And like I said, yesterday was a good day of practice, and we hope to repeat that again today.
Well, this week you're taking on Tattnall County. I got to feel like you know a little bit about this team.
I do. Know all of those kids, even the new kids there that were in middle school. But when you're a competitor, it doesn't matter who it is, where it is. Just once we step on the field and toe meets leather, then we'll get after it for 48 minutes, and then afterwards that will all be over with, and I hope we never have to play them again.
How hard will it be for you to walk onto that field and go to the opposite side than where you've been in the past?
I don't think it'll be hard. I think it'll be strange. But like I said, it's not just coach talk. But when you step on to the field, when you step into the arena as a coach and a player, outside the chalk lines, there's really nothing else going on.
Well, going through the X's and O's, you've seen video, you know this team. What do you expect out of them Friday?
They're very, very talented in the skill positions. Got 2 quarterbacks actually that can beat you with their throwing and running. So we haven't fared. We've struggled this year against running quarterbacks. So that's something we're having to shore up and work on hard this week. Defensively, their back end, their secondary is their strongest area. So they're going to load the box to stop the run and dare you to throw it. We got to be able to throw the ball to loosen them up a little bit. And but they're, it's the same team that came over here and beat Statesboro last year. So it's the same kids. So I'm aware of what can happen if we don't bring our A game.
Josh, our attitude and spirit is pretty doggone good considering we've 0-4, and no doubt there was concern coming into this week how our mental approach would be and our emotions would be preparing for Islands coming off a hard-fought defeat against Jenkins. I will tell you, Josh, that was a very physical ball game. It was an emotional ball game, and one that I believe our players exerted every ounce of energy they could, and they sold out only to come up with short. And so after doing that for 4 weeks in a row, you certainly are concerned somewhat how we may respond. But our players, very resilient. They understand from the standpoint that we have played 4 quality opponents, and it doesn't erase the hurt, it doesn't erase the disappointment, but also we're wise enough to realize that these games can only make us stronger as long as we persevere, and I think that's the attitude that we will take going into this week against Islands. Josh, this is my first time playing against them or an experience, and they're still relatively a new school. What I'm very impressed with, they have some skilled players, and on both sides of the ball. A lot of those play kind of both ways, but they rotate them well so they're not on the field the whole entire game. When I say skill, it's speed and agility and quickness. It starts with a quarterback. He is a threat anytime he touches the ball. They have a couple of good running backs, and they're going to do the exactly same things we have been seeing basically over the course of 4 weeks out of the spread package. And so we showed signs last week of getting a little bit better defensively, hopefully by kind of having the same game plan that will give us a little confidence. Our offense has done very well to continue to move the chains and eat the clock up. And, here's a case in which nothing's changed the previous 4 weeks. We still have to move the football in our power game. We may have to exercise the option of throwing the ball a little bit more on earlier downs to keep the defense honest. But I know that Islands will be ready for this opportunity. They come in with a little momentum, and also they look across and see they're 0-4. Then maybe that might be to our advantage, that they might take us a little lightly. Our concern is, making sure that we're ready. Number 2 is coming out of the Jenkins game, we have several injuries, and hopefully that our players will be back. But other than that, we'll feel good about someone stepping up. Should be a good football game, and it's a very important one for us.
Another rundown, Statesboro High will be at Tattnall County. You've got Southeast Bullock at Islands. Portal will host Savannah Country Day, and Bullock Academy will host Edmund Burke. Stay with us. Coming up next, Jennifer Lee Hirsch with her Pick 6.
Center Pharmacy on Grenade Street is proud to be your Health Mart pharmacy in Statesboro. The Medical Center Pharmacy, locally owned and serving this community for 50 years, is open 364 days a year. The pharmacists at Medical Center know there's nothing more important than your family's well-being. That's why they take the time to know their customers, explain their medications, and answer any questions. The Medical Center Pharmacy, your Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
Hey, Miss Thompson, everything's fine. It's going to be no problem. I'll have you done in a few minutes.
My name is Paisley Nordhoff, part owner of Complete Car Care, and I want you to come see me.
And welcome to another time for our last one. 3, 2, 1. It's now that time of the show everyone looks forward to. It's Jen's Picks. Jen last week went 5-1. We had a couple of ties. Jennifer is now 1 game up on Josh. As we get ready for another big week, we're going to begin with the team that Georgia Southern lost to last week. Yes.
But you do know that I've been watching the shows up on YouTube.
Look good, huh?
People, I look fantastic. I really do.
Never been humble. All right, here she goes. First place, Jennifer, Penn State, giving 17 to the team that beat up on your Eagles last week. Who you like?
You know what? Penn State. I did some research today.
Sure.
17 points.
Yeah, too much?
I don't know where you're getting these points from.
That's on the computer.
But I would like to know what site later. But hello. I'm going to Penn State this week.
You know what? I think Indiana might be a little bit better than some people think. We'll see how that one works out. LSU giving 21 points to a team that Georgia Southern will be playing, I believe, at the end of next month. Troy. Who you like?
I like LSU for 21 points.
21 I think is too much. I think Troy's pretty good. I think they cover. Florida's giving 10 to my Vanderbilt Commodores, who just got beat up by the Alabama Crimson Tide. Florida.
You know, I was pretty
out.
happy.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy, you know, because the Gators, I watched them. I was in Florida last week.
Right.
And I just got back on Monday. Yeah.
They won the game, didn't they?
And they did. And I am so excited, guys. I had never been so excited in my entire life. But Florida Gators, if you keep up the winning, I'm going to keep picking. So it's Florida Gators.
I'm going with my Commodores anchored down this week. They find a way to keep it within 10. Your Georgia Bulldogs, undefeated on the season, coming off another big win against Mississippi State. Now they got your Rocky Toppers from Tennessee, who you like, Jen. I know what you're doing, but go ahead.
You know, I mean, I watched the whole entire game on Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah?
Bulldogs, I will say this, guys. Georgia Bulldogs have been one heck of a
They're undefeated.
show.
They're doing great.
And I have to say that I'm picking Georgia this week.
You know what, Jennifer? There's always that one game that happens that Georgia fans aren't really prepared for, and I believe it might come this week. I think Tennessee covers. They may not win the game, but I think they cover the 8-point spread. Auburn, the other former team that Georgia Southern played, Mississippi State, got killed by Georgia last week. Auburn's a 10-point favorite. Who you like?
You know, after seeing last week's game, really,
Yeah.
fans and everybody watching me,
Right?
Mississippi State, I did some research on them.
They didn't do
I
too
was
good.
not crazy about them whatsoever.
Yeah.
But Lee Hill and Johnson, who are my sponsors, I thank you for doing that. But I'm picking Auburn this week.
All right. You know what? Going once against you again. I think Mississippi State had a terrible week, but I think they rebound. Keep it within 10. They may not win. And now finally, Jen, here we go with your Falcons again. This past week they got awfully lucky. A play that could have went the other way, didn't, and they end up winning by 4. That was the spread. This week they're taking on Buffalo. The Bills, they're 8-point favorites. Who you like?
You know, now, long time ago, my dad used to say to me, you know, if you got to go with somebody and you got to stay in this area,
That's right.
I'm going to have to say Atlanta Falcons this week.
All right. Well, we got plenty of merchandise from the University Store. I'd like to remind you, if you'd like to go in there, they got hats, they got shirts, they got merchandise of all kinds. We'd like to remind you to visit our friends at the University Store located on the Georgia Southern campus. Jen gets some of her stuff there, and also like to thank who?
Lee Hill Johnson.
All right. That'll do it for now. We thank you for joining us. See you again next week.